I'm David from Feedback Loop. Today, we're hosting a conversation with Babson and their academic technologies unit. And Lisa is going to talk to you all about their process, their innovation pipeline. I actually approached Lisa and said, can you talk to folks about this? Because as a vendor, obviously, we work with a lot of schools and have worked with many kind of ongoing. So we've seen a lot. And what was exciting about this to me was how connected the whole pilot experience felt with the teaching and learning academic professional staff and the faculty side. Sometimes there can be breakdowns there. It's a lot of moving parts. And so I had no idea there was this background framework at all. As a vendor, I'm not party to any of that. I just said, wow, Lisa, how do you guys do this? Oh, well, actually, we have a process and a framework. So, of course, right, that makes sense. That all checks out. Quick background on me, I'm a co-founder of Feedback Loop. It's a peer survey tool, and it's designed to work really seamlessly. So for us, it can only be seamless if we're able to connect with faculty, hear from them. And so the feedback we've gotten at other schools too, but at Babson through this pilot that we did this past semester, I mean, completely invaluable. We learned a lot about what faculty are looking for, and the devil is really in the details with this stuff we're learning with peer review. So we think we have a nice tool. We'll hear a bit from Lisa, but with that, Lisa, Merrill, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you so much, and thanks for having us. I brought my colleague Meryl Poku along. She's our instructional technologist for our Academic Technology Innovation Center, one of the many. So I'm going to just go through a PowerPoint. I'm going to stop the PowerPoint at some point and show you actually our platform of the innovation pipeline. Just, I've been with Babson for 11 years, going on 12, the beginning of August. I started out as an instructional technologist, or before that, a project specialist. So I was brought in as a project specialist to work on the innovation pipeline. So I've been working on this process. So I'm going to share my screen. Please feel free to put questions in the chat or Q&A. Meryl and David are both going to be monitoring that. I'm happy to stop at any point in time to answer questions. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, everybody should be able to see my screen. So this is who we are, and here's the agenda first. So really we're going to talk about why the innovation pipeline, why this came to be, how this process started, and why we use it. Some of the challenges I know that we face, that other schools face, which the innovation pipeline process has been helping with a lot. Go through our stage process. It's a 4-stage process that we have. So I'm going to go through each of those and give examples of where we are right now on certain one of our stages. And then the use case is feedback loops. So I've been working with David for a long time. And we had a problem with our feedback tool in Canvas. We're a Canvas LMS school. And the use case is really going to talk through the whole entire process and where we are right now with feedback loop. So who we are, just so you know, to give you perspective, we are not a very big school, which I think makes it very easy for us to connect with our faculty and work closely. This is just kind of give you an idea of how many undergraduate students and graduate students we have. And this is what our office looks like. So we are the Academic Technology Innovation Center. We are part of IT. So I know a lot of schools that I talked to about this process are part of the Center for Teaching and Learning or something like that. We are under IT, which makes it really nice because we have a good relationship with, clearly with everyone in the IT department, but it also helps us push our technology through and get budget and funding a little bit easier being part of IT. So here's our group as a whole. So we have multimedia producers, we have a whole video studio, we have our instructional designers, we have our instructional technologists, and we do have a user experience designer and a graphic designer that's part of this particular role. There's about 14 of us total. So some of the challenges that we face, like every other school, is evaluating technology. So faculty that come to us, and there's so many apps out there, and there's so many add-ons, and between all the different browsers, faculty come in and say, I'm using this great tool, and we talk them through it. And sometimes it's just not, one faculty request is not going to push the process through, but we're looking at technologies that impact the curriculum. How does it enhance things in the classroom for faculty and for students? what is the best tool for us to recommend? So we'll get a faculty member that says, what should I use for a group member peer evaluation tool? I'm like, oh, we have this great tool that we're piloting right now. It's Feedback Loop, and this is how it works. And really, when that happens, often faculty are saying, can I just join the pilot? Because I don't want to wait until the summer semester. So we've had that as well with Feedback Loop. How do we assess these pilots? So what feedback are we looking for? It's not just whether it's good or bad. It's, how is it as far as, is it user friendly? Is it an integration within Canvas? Does it work well? So we want to make sure we provide tools to faculty, especially in students that are within Canvas. So that's one of the first things we look at. But then how do we assess all that feedback? How do we communicate technology decisions and then implementation and adoption? So the process that we have takes care of some of these. There are still challenges in between, but what does our process look like? Before I show you exactly the process and the steps with the graphic, why did we design it in the first place? Really, it's not just to pilot new technology and pilot ideas and look at ideas from faculty or things that we research online that our benchmarking schools are using, or the new fancy technology that's out there that everybody wants. It's really just to provide many things, really proof that we're looking at these trends. So we're just not sitting back in our department and kind of watching things go by. We're looking at AI tools. We're looking at better tools than what we have. We're looking at upgrades to tools. So it's really just to show the community that, yes, we're looking at things and we're looking at different trends that are out there, not necessarily jumping on them, but we're looking at them. We wanted a documented process for academic technology adoption. So this process is really just to show anybody that asks, like, we're not just purchasing and spending money on certain technologies. Like, we have a set process and this is what it is. Also, a big part of it is involving our faculty. So making a decision with their input. We have a group of faculty that we call the Academic Technology Working Group that joins our team. There's 10 faculty from different divisions. So we meet with them once a semester, and we'll talk about our technology and things that we're looking at, but also reaching out to faculty that we've built relationships with over the years to say, hey, I know you use this type of tool. You've been looking for something like this. We really want you involved in this pilot and this decision. And then they can say kind of make or break or go. And then really just letting us understand what the need is. So instead of always serving faculty or even meeting in faculty divisions, which we try to get to, is really just understanding what their interests are, what their needs are. And this process helps us with that as well, especially in the beginning of the process. And then finally, it's not a rubber stamp. Many times we've gotten to a pilot and we're like, no, this is just not going to work. We don't, number one, have enough faculty that are interested, although the faculty liked it, the student end was not a very good experience for them. Students are saying that they don't want to use a tool like this. So we don't get it past the pilot stage. It's not a guarantee. Like, we have a lot within the pilot that we go through and we try to follow. So also, one more thing is a communication tool. So we're using this process to show a few things. Oops, let me just go back for a second to that slide. Try that again. So forward thinking, again, just to kind of show what we're doing, communicating with the community. It's all the community, it's faculty and staff, it's leadership. They know what we're doing. How do we communicate these key technologies that we've gotten through the process or not? How do we communicate the changes in platforms? I don't know if anybody has done a new LMS adoption, but we went from Blackboard to Canvas 5 years ago. That was a 2-year process. So it wasn't just we're moving here. It was a lot of piloting and faculty involvement, faculty input, and essentially a faculty vote on whether they wanted to move to Canvas once we gave them all the information on budget and cost and support and how we were going to plan and roll all of this over. And this graphic is just some of the tools that we have adopted over the years through our process. So Name Coach is new, Feedback Loop is on here, obviously. And then, using other things like Miro or just some of the tools that have gone through this process, I wanted to make sure we had a graphic on it. And then these change management solutions. So anytime that we do a big adoption, we have to go through a change management process with IT, and go to a meeting and have it approved by the by leadership as well. So it's just not something that we push through. All right, this is what I keep talking about that I finally want to get to. Here's the graphic that I wanted. So here's our process. It goes from stage 1 to stage 4. Stage 1 is the project concept, and that again could be something, a tool that we've researched online, a trend, a faculty member say, I'm using this tool, I think it's great, I would like other faculty members to use it. So that's kind of the idea. Or there's a need, like I really need a better group member evaluation tool than what we have. Canvas doesn't have anything, we need something better. We need you to research what's out there and try to find something to fix an issue that we've been having. The second phase is really the internal testing. So our group then, and it's usually the technologists and me, sometimes an idea is on our group, is to reach out to the vendor, see if we can get a demo, and then get a sandbox and really play around with it and see how we feel as IT specialists, and if it's something that we want to push through, if there's a need out there. And I'll go through this a little bit more as I get to each phase. The pilot, and then, getting feedback on that. And then the rollout to the Babson community is a step process depending on the size of the technology. So going through the 4 stages. So I pulled this graphic. Harmonize is a tool that we are looking at now. So where did the idea come from? So the idea came from a lot of our faculty have been complaining about the Canvas discussion board for a long time. And we've been looking at different tools. We looked at Atomic Learning. We looked at a couple of others that just weren't there and something that we wanted to push forward. But we found this tool Harmonize by doing some research because it came up again from a faculty member. It's like, I just can't use this discussion board. It just doesn't do what I want it to do. So what's the idea and what problem is it solving, right? So the idea is that the Canvas discussion boards aren't working for all of our faculty. The problem is solving is if it's an easy to use tool and an easy integration, then we'll have better discussion boards for faculty and a discussion board for students to use that's easier. And once we get to this phase, what's the criteria for moving on? So once we've kind of looked at the idea, looked briefly at Harmonize, does the concept align with the goals of the college? And then also, does the concept have interested stakeholders? So then we start reaching out to faculty in this phase and see if there's any other interest other than the 1 or 2 faculty that we're hearing from, or we just start doing reach out at this point as well before we go on to the next concept. So then there's that testing phase. So right now we're testing a tool called Scribe. And this is a tool that we have a faculty member that actually came in and said, I don't know why you guys aren't promoting this tool, but it's a really cool tool and it's something that I use all the time and other faculty should be using it. So we have a business case for it. We have his division faculty are also interested in it. And then we start looking at it more closer. We contact Scribe. We ask what their budget, what their resources are and what they have for costs. Do they have an enterprise cost? Is it as a license by license basis? We have some testing documentation where a few of us make sure that we have accounts, and we go in and we test it and play with it based on a type of use case. Do we have that vendor support? So I was talking to David earlier today, and I basically said, vendor support and vendor partnerships are extremely important to us because number one, we should always have a contact person that's a vendor. How are they going to support us, and can they meet with us regularly to talk about their new features, to talk about our needs, ask if they're developing. That's another big point. Are you developing your tool? So if there's a need, can we contact you and make a suggestion? And it certainly depends on the vendor, but in feedback loop case, we basically would go to David quite often and say, our faculty are asking, is this going to be developed and can you develop this? And he's been right on in doing that. So this whole stage is when we really get a feel if we'll have support from certain vendors. We have had a few hiccups. So we adopted a tool called Name Coach, and we had a good relationship with our vendors, but didn't go forward and ask the question, what data can you get out of this? Like we need reports of who's using this tool and more information. So really even digging in and building that relationship and find out what they can give us to support us is important. And then finally, the pilot. So the pilot is probably the biggest piece of this. We usually do it by semester. So we take a whole semester and we pilot a tool. We don't like to have more than 10 faculty for feedback loop. Every time a faculty member told another faculty member, our list grew. So I think we were up to 15 or more faculty that wanted to use it. But it's part of this whole pilot stage is training the faculty. So we need to learn it as a team. So as a team, we learn it and we become somewhat experts on it, knowing that we have the vendor support and partnership. And then in this case, and I'll talk more about the feedback loop case, but for a feedback loop, we kind of threw it back at David and said, you know, instead of us supporting the faculty, it might be a better idea for you to train the faculty so they can ask you questions and you might help with some tools. David, did you want to pipe in on that or?
Yeah, just if I could add, because that maybe other schools do that, but I hadn't found anyone who gave that level of white glove experience. So that what you just said might be novel. The idea that the academic technology team was sort of sending and managing surveys, which is a tremendous value for faculty, but maybe not ended up not being fully sustainable or scalable. And so I think part of the premise with this pilot was, can we find a tool that's so easy to use and intuitive that we can let the faculty self-serve? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that was our goal, one of our goals. And we told faculty up front, we're trying to find a tool so you don't have to lean on our team so much to help set things up for you, or we will certainly support you if there's an issue, but we want you to learn how to do this on your own. So maybe the best way for us is to step out and let David and his team take over. So it was kind of a win-win on both ends. They're becoming self-sufficient. And David, your team was able to hear some feedback from faculty of saying, you know, I really would like to see it work this way, or I need this particular function. Is it going to be developed?
Yeah, it was tremendous. And different schools have different boundaries with their faculty. And I understand that every school has a different culture. But whenever we have any direct connection with faculty users to learn from them, I mentioned to Lisa before this call started this morning, we had a call with one of the faculty at Babson, and he was showing me how he was trying to do something. And I got to just watch how he tried to do it. And I picked up on something I wouldn't have thought of, right? Because I know the tool, my team knows the tool, we built it. But when we watch someone use it who's brand new, fresh to the tool, basically, it's a huge learning experience. If you ever have the chance to work that way with vendors, and maybe some of the people on this call already do, I don't know, but it can be really valuable for the vendors too. And then I think the end result is everybody gets a better product out of it, which is really what we're in it for.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So this part of the pilot is a lot of data collection. It's a lot of meeting with faculty. It's really getting the feedback from the students, from the faculty. We're monitoring it the whole time, keeping track of support and technology issues. And really, quite frankly, it's word of mouth. So if there's a faculty member group that are loving a tool, we're hearing about it from other faculty during the pilot. Or I had one faculty member, his name is Jonathan, said, I can't believe you didn't ask me to be part of this pilot. I would have been part of this pilot in a second. So that is also very helpful. And that faculty support for us, and again, those relationships with the faculty that we have. So really, how do we move to that stage 4, which is the rollout stage, which is the hard part, really. The rollout stage is the hardest part of all of this, and I'll talk about that in a minute. You know, what are the pilot outcomes? What's the recommendation from the pilot faculty based on their experience and what they're hearing from students too? And then we run this through, again, our academic technology working group, which is made up of 10 faculty that we meet with and say, listen, this pilot went really well. We're going to move forward. Here's the budget for it. We have budget money for it. We've already checked on that. We want to roll this out starting in the summer in feedback loops case, and then make sure that all faculty are on board by the end of fall semester. We have the budget to do this, and then we'll walk it through. The nice thing about the stage 3 or not, depending on the tool, is sometimes it doesn't get past it. You know, sometimes we're like, no, we're not going to invest in this tool, or now is not the time to invest in this tool. Let's wait on it. Either let's wait to see if we have a budget for it. We need to wait for that, or let's wait to see if they're developing more, because it's a technology that we still need more functionality and it's not quite there. That's another piece of it as well. And quite frankly, usage. You know, are we going to have big usage numbers? Because we don't want to invest in a tool if we're not going to have faculty that really need it use it, and it's just sitting there. One example is this one integration that we have, and I won't mention the name in Canvas. We have 3 faculty members using it right now. So if that's the case, there's only 3 faculty members. Number one, we have to find out why, and number 2, like, why are we paying for this if no one's using it? So that's a big part of it as well. And we often take at the end of the semester, take a look at our tools and try to get usage reports on it, either from the vendor, or if we can pull usage reports from Canvas if it's a Canvas integration, and then really make some decisions from there. But this is a kind of we call it a gate process because it might not get through this gate. And it may be able to go through for the rollout. So the rollout piece of this, again, is the most difficult part. So it's implementation, it's adoption, it's adding it to our Babson toolbox. The implementation piece, usually the easiest piece. We have to push it through our change management, through IT, that it's in there, and and that's usually fine. It's getting that adoption and getting that usage on top of having us provide resources and communicate that this tool is there. Now, one of our biggest challenges is to communicate that out in a way that faculty is going to read their emails during a semester. We try not to do things mid-semester. It's usually at the end of the semester. So in the feedback loop case, for example, at the end of this semester, we'll report out to faculty and divisions of how successful it was, and that we've adopted it, and we're going to have resources on the faculty portal, and we'll hold training sessions. We have one big event in August, the beginning of the semester, we call Fall into Learning. And that's when we announce our new tools that we've adopted over the summer, and we do some training on it. And then we also send some videos out to faculty. Part of this rollout is that I don't have on here, and I'll talk about this. I'm going to show you the innovation pipeline website. But part of that adoption that we have is also, we just created a team group. We have a part of our library. Our librarians have connections with each division at Babson. So one of our members of our team, each member of our team is going to be paired with a librarian, and we're going to be assigned to a division. So monthly newsletters, or I'm sorry, semester newsletters just to each division, or having us attend a division meeting together. Then we can talk about the new technology and ask if there's any support or resources. So we've kind of wiggled our way into division meetings, if we can possibly do that at least once or twice a semester, so they see a face, and then we can also hear from our faculty, and we can also communicate the things that we are trying to push out by email. So while I'm calling this up, are there any questions, or Meryl, David, or any questions online that I can answer right now for anybody? And feel free to unmute and ask me if you need be.
No questions yet.
Okay. All right, good. So can everyone see my screen, the innovation pipeline screen? Okay, so this is our innovation pipeline. It's a website that's right now on Weebly, and we are looking to move it. I'm going to talk a little bit about the future of where this lives once we get to that point of the presentation. But this is what it looks like. It just is again, it's a link that we send out, and then we have different places on our different sites, the faculty portal and so on. Just shows what this is, what the process is. And then under the pipeline link, it'll show kind of what popular projects are now. And then if someone wants to see where things are in different phases of the projects, that is here. This is built by one of our technologists that does this. Meryl, what is I'm drawing a blank on the tool that we use behind the scenes.
Airtable.
Airtable, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, this is done through Airtable. So we have this in Airtable, and it's updated. So if somebody wants to sort by, stage 1 or stage 2, we have what it is as far as the description, where it is in the stage, the current status of it, and where it stands. And then if you click on one of these cards, it'll give the information here in a bigger view. So again, this is just all out there, full disclosure. This is what we're doing. This is what we're looking at. Here are our projects. Here it communicates what we're looking at. We're looking at trends that we're trying different things and different tools. And it also shows, again, where things are as far as stages go. And we have a lot on here. And it'll show the rollout stages as well. And any ones that are haven't been touched or sitting in that stage 1 or stage 2 even for a while, and we're not getting any interest, and we certainly don't have a budget for something like that particular tool, we close it out. And then if it resurfaces again, it resurfaces again. And I'm happy to share this link, David, with you if you want to send it out with a follow-up afterwards. Anybody, it's a public site, so anybody can go in and take a look at it.
Yeah, we can send out a copy of the recording and a link to this. And I guess I just wanted to interject a comment because I think I said it before we went live and we were talking privately. I hope I'm not about to repeat myself, but it's relevant to what you were just talking about. The feedback that your team created, like you mentioned, I think you called it the sandbox period. Is that
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
we went through that, and Lisa and her team and Meryl and the several others just had this tremendous list of feedback, really anticipating what they expected. And it was really dialed in. And I think in part because you guys have used some peer feedback tools over time, so you were pretty well seasoned. I imagine it's probably tougher to do that if it's a totally new category. But you guys had some really terrific points. And then the next step of it going to faculty, and then faculty come back with their additional points. And what really struck me was how it all sort of agreed. Like there was definitely some stuff that came up from faculty that we didn't hit in the sandbox. But by and large, I felt like I was hearing a lot of the same talking points. And I don't know if we just all got really lucky on that it was everyone was on the same page or if that's common for you all. But as a vendor, it was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that's and thank you for bringing that up. And that's part of it. So, that idea, that first concept of really thinking about, well, how would faculty use this, or how does it compare to something that we might already have, or what's the functionality that we know that's needed, or the touching point that's really getting faculty angry with using this tool. So we need to find another tool that's missing. So it's also just being in contact and trying to communicate with faculty as much as we can. And we have a lot of faculty that volunteer for pilots because they've been in a pilot before. They know what to expect. They know they're not alone. And quite frankly, they like just being the first to use a tool. We've had that as well. Like, oh, I've already used that tool. I was part of the pilot. But they're also helping other faculty. Like in the case with Feedback Loop, we had one faculty member that said, I'll just go in his course and help him set up all of Feedback Loop. You don't have to worry about it, Lisa, or I won't contact David. I know how to do it already. So there are faculty champions as well, as if we roll a tool out.
When you mentioned faculty satisfaction and student satisfaction, I was just curious because I know students can sometimes, at least in my little bit of experience, I'm sure you all have experienced it far more. It might be medicine that's good for them, and I can imagine some categories of product that they might not really like using, but they kind of need to do it. I don't really feel like ours falls in that because peer review does have some direct student benefit, but there are some really great learning experiences for students that they might not like in the moment. Do you have any thoughts on how to sort of weed that out or how to assess student satisfaction with something?
Yeah, well, we do weed it out, but based on a survey that we may send out, or even just faculty just taking information in the classroom and then bringing it back to us and say, all right, well, here's the great feedback, the not so great feedback. It's not concrete, or wouldn't take this to heart and put a red flag and stop it right from here. If it's feedback of it's, for the Feedback Loop pilot, it was just a much better interface, or we like the fact that it's right within Canvas and we don't have to go out to another site. Those are things that we want to hear. And then it's a feedback tool, peer review tool. It doesn't matter what tool I use. So it doesn't, we have to really vet it, I should say, as we start getting some of that feedback in and know. If it's a red flag would be the user interface is not good. I got very confused using the tool. It didn't work for me. I ran into a bunch of problems, or the technology didn't work, or it didn't expand on the screen, or is it a mobile app? Can I do this on mobile? Like those are important things to us.
And can I just add too, I think one of the examples Lisa had showed you all was the student evaluation questionnaire. And we have student workers in our office, and we were serendipitously very lucky that a couple of them were in classes that were part of the pilot. So I think with them, we got very, very truthful because we have a good relationship with them, like what worked, what was confusing. and whatnot. So when we can use the students we know, that's always a good thing too.
Absolutely. And they're also our testers. So when we did the Microsoft OneDrive integration, we could not test it on our end because of the Microsoft student account. So we had to pull students in from our IT support team and then some of our students to test it to make sure it was working before we put it into our production site. So it's also using students for testing as well. And the SEQ was a big project, and Meryl was the lead on that one. And the rollout was pretty big. It's watermark. So we went from a homegrown tool to a tool before that to watermark, and that was a good the whole semester pilot and then a whole year rollout really for this particular tool. And we're still supporting it, and we still have our support staff part of that. We're still supporting it as well. Okay, so I want to just talk a little bit about feedback loop, and I've mentioned it on and off throughout the presentation, but really kind of start from start to finish. So our current feedback tool, group member tool in Canvas was missing a lot of things. It didn't allow us to do what our faculty use for stock allocation, so there was no number field. Students were finding the user interface very difficult. Faculty were giving us feedback like this isn't working. We need to find a better tool and work through a better tool. So that was kind of we knew that there was a problem in the beginning. So that's kind of that stage one where we knew that we already knew what the use case was going to be to fix the problem. We knew there was a problem when we already had more than a handful of faculty reaching out to us saying, are you looking at something different? So that's kind of how we started it. And then it was a reach out to David and saying, is the Canvas integration there? Is it ready? We're ready to jump on it. We really try to take advantage of our LMS and integrate as many tools as we can, just so there's kind of a one-stop shop. So faculty know that there's tools available within the LMS, which we use for all of our classes. So the integration with Canvas was ready. So it was our team meeting with David and his team, getting a demo. He gave us a sandbox. We were able to do it in our Canvas test instance. So we have a Canvas test instance, put it in there. We were playing with it. And that's when 3 or 4 of us met and made that list for David and said, okay, well, before we pilot this, we need to make sure that this functionality is working, because we know that faculty are going to be asking for it based on what they're saying is missing in our current tool. And then some enhancements that would make it better for our faculty and the user experience. So then what I did after that, after we had our sandbox, we met with David, we were in good shape, is where do I find our faculty? I went back to a list I had of the faculty that are using our current tool. And I reached out to all of them and said, we have this new tool we're piloting. We really would like you involved in this pilot. We're looking to make a change. We would like your input, since you know how to use a group member evaluation tool. And we want to know if you would be involved, if you want to participate. And as I said, we started with 10 and we ended up with 15. And we had, I wish I had the number on me, I didn't do it, but over 400 students used the tool based on all of the different sections. David, you might have that number, between the faculty and the sections and using it. And then for a pilot, that's stage 3. Again, what we usually do is we just support it and take it. But for this particular tool, because we have so much support that we have to give to the other tool we currently have, I wanted to step away from that, and I wanted to make sure that faculty could do it on their own without contacting our team or having our team. And often we get calls now is, can you please go and set up the group peer tool? I don't know how to do it. And we've had it for a long time. Or it's not working, and can you check it, or can you make sure it's working, or I want to see the student view, which this tool we have right now doesn't do either. I'd have to do a recording from a student end. So there's a lot of different improvements that needed to be made, but also we wanted to pull those faculty in that were having issues with the current tool that we have. So we have some that are using the current tool that are part of this pilot, and then I have some faculty that I know that do it paper. They have a paper way to do their They're peer evals. I hand out a piece of paper, and then they have students kind of check it off for each one in their group. And I wanted to reach out to those faculty as well and have them part of a pilot. So we have this pilot. We went through, and we're almost done with it. It's almost the end of the semester. We do check-ins with our faculty. So there's, Meryl, 3 members on this pilot team from our group. 4 members. So we have 2 technologists, myself, and one of our course production specialists that are on this pilot from our team. We split the faculty and divided it up. So we each have the primary faculty that we support. And we're reaching out to the faculty. I just sent an email last week saying, I know finals is coming up. If you need help setting up your feedback loop survey, please let one of us know. And I also copied David on it and said David and his team's available as well. I think we've had maybe 1 or 2 faculty, and most seems self-sufficient and on their own. I think I did have a faculty member said, can you just check to make sure I set this up right? And leave it at that. So I think the overall success for it, especially for faculty being self-sufficient using feedback loop, is huge for us. Because we want to get out of the business of setting everything up for a faculty member, and we don't have the resources, and we have other cool things that we want to do with technology that's coming down the pipeline for Babson. So this is just a snapshot of the Canvas integration, which is really nice and easy. It's integrated, so I can't say enough about the integration with Canvas. It just makes it so much easier for faculty to go ahead and create these surveys. And we haven't had a lot of hand-holding on this pilot at all. So what happens next is for us to get all this pilot information, the feedback from faculty. We're going to meet with faculty and have David and his team included when we have a final meeting with faculty so they can give feedback to David. I know we have the budget to adopt this, so we've already gotten approval for adoption. And then it's our job from here over the summer to create all of those resources, any videos that we can, set up training time, and then announce that we have this tool at our big training event in August. Is there a question? Any questions on that?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about this because I know it's come up at other schools, and Rachel asked, and Meryl wrote out an answer as well, but maybe it's worth having a quick discussion. Rachel Hoke said we follow a similar process, but often have a hard time getting faculty to pilot. They might not want to go through, put the work in if they're not sure if it'll be there on the other end. And you mentioned for your pilot team, I think you mentioned 10 faculty maybe or something. You got that core team. How do you find those people? How do you find those people that want to be early adopters?
And Meryl, did you want to answer since you answered, or do you want me to answer?
Sure. I think it's kind of 2 parts. I think, Rachel, to your point, if someone's giving us some less than eager feedback about the pilot, then we let them go and not be in the pilot. We try to have very good relationships, as Lisa had mentioned earlier, with everyone in our office being connected to a different division. And we are a small school, so it is relatively easy to do. And so we have good contact with a lot of faculty, but with feedback loop, it was really easy because a lot of people were complaining about the old one. And when we can go to them and say, we've found something that we think is so much better, and it does, X, Y, and Z that you were complaining about, they're typically more than happy to just jump right in.
Yeah, exactly.
So pilot interest level is almost like a signal for demand of the product. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would think so. I think that's part of it. All right. So yes. So just to finish up, because I'm looking at time. So yeah. So feedback. So we went through this whole process with feedback loop. We're at the end. We're ready to purchase and roll out. We haven't heard anything negative from faculty, but when we meet with them, I'll get more feedback. And again, the most important piece of this, which was again new to us, but wonderful, was this relationship that we have with Feedback Loop, of making a suggestion of a tool that faculty, a function that faculty is looking for, looking at the roadmap of Feedback Loop and seeing where it is, and having David put it on the list on the roadmap and see if it makes sense or not, or if it's something that's doable, or how long it's going to take to develop, was a big part of it as well. And the faculty in this group that are part of the pilot know this relationship that we have with Feedback Loop, and they're excited about it as well. Right, so I'm just going to finish. So this is always a work in process, not so much the process, but where this all lives. So you saw the Weebly site that I have. We had some group sessions with faculty to ask if they're looking at the Weebly site, where they want to see the information of what we're doing. And they asked us to reinvent it and move it to a spot that's on the faculty portal, so they don't have to find the link to go someplace else. And so we're moving it, we're redesigning it with our graphic designer, and Meryl and I are on that team along with the other instructional technologists. So over the summer, we're going to be redesigning, and then we're really going to market this out, getting the word out there of seeing what we're doing and why we're doing it and what it means for this academic technology adoption process, which is so important to us and that has worked successfully for so long. We want to keep it. So we're going to keep doing it. We just need to find another location, because some faculty members that were in these groups didn't even know what it was. And some faculty that have been here longer than I have should have known what it was, but they had no idea. Or sometimes I'll get a faculty member will say, "Where's that place I'm supposed to go and find out what technology you guys are doing?" So we're trying to relocate all of this information and redesign it so it's easier for faculty to reach out to us, or even look at the technology that's out there. And if they have a better one that they're using, say, "Why don't you guys use this or look at this?" Then we certainly will go ahead and do that. And then that's pretty much it for me. So any questions? I'm going to actually stop sharing. And if there's any questions or any information that you need from me or Meryl, please ask.
And we can send out your contact info as well, if anybody wants to follow up. But yeah, if you have any questions, it's an intimate enough group. We can switch to audio for a minute. I know we only have a couple minutes left. I know as a vendor, my other company, EduSource, this isn't true for. Different schools have sometimes wildly divergent needs, and you can't always do everything for everyone. With peer feedback, the stuff we were hearing from you and your faculty was very tightly, it wasn't 100%, but it was very tightly converged with stuff from the other schools, which is fantastic. I mean, that's when you know you have a really nice opportunity to deliver something special. And at the end of the day, there's only so many different things you'd want to do with peer review. But you mentioned this, you guys call it a stock allocation question. We built that specifically because Babson asked for it. And that was one example where we weren't 100% sure if other schools would use it. What we saw was really cool. Faculty at other schools who hadn't asked for it, and in many cases, and confirm this through conversation, it wasn't something they had thought about before. And yet, when they saw it was possible, they actually really liked it. So I think there's a lot of opportunity when vendors listen to the schools to kind of de facto share knowledge between schools, because that's not a feature we would have thought to do this year. We may have gotten to it eventually, we may not have, but because it was so important for you all, it was very easy for us to prioritize. And then it frankly benefited some other folks too. So that I think is cool. We've got a feature where within the school, any faculty who create a survey template, they can kind of share it within their school. I think eventually, and we want to make sure to respect everyone's privacy with this, but we want to allow for schools that want to opt into this, sharing that template for that. If that faculty says, "Hey, I want other schools to be able to see this template too," with my attribution and my credit, we plan to do that too. And it's just kind of building on that. And also seeing all the different vendors that you all, work with over time. I think there's a lot of opportunity for vendors to work with each other. Like, I've met the founder of NameCoach, and NameCoach integration with Feedback Loop probably makes sense at some point. I know their product fairly well. Canvas Credentials, I think they call it now. It used to be Portfolium or something. That's an easy one to integrate with because I think they have a public API, but that's one too, where we're not very far along in it, but we're in the early stages of planning. How can we get information from Feedback Loop about your student performance, about some of the teaching and learning outcomes for group work, and get that information available, not just to the school, you know, in reporting, because that's almost the easy part. And we're going to do that next year, no matter what. But even integrating it with some of the other tools you use. So it's a little bit in the back of our mind, but it's just neat to see all that laid out with all these different vendors. And it's like, you know, there's really an ecosystem here. Well, thanks, Lisa, a lot for your time. And Meryl, both of you. It was a really cool process going through the pilot and seeing it laid out. I feel like I learned a lot today because it's funny being on the other side. But as I said at the beginning, I didn't know about most of this stuff. So it's pretty cool to see that and learn from it myself.
Good, thank you. Thanks for having us. And anyone who wants to reach out to me, David, please, you know, include, I'll send you the link to the innovation pipeline, the public site, and then I'll, you know, please include my email and Meryl's email as contacts, because we're happy to go through or help anybody that needs it.